A boxing world champion and a UFC contender made a $40,000 bet on a live stream, and what happened next spiraled into public accusations, threats, and challenges worth up to $1 million. Ryan Garcia and Arman Tsarukyan went from hanging out on camera to going at each other across every platform on the internet. So here's everything that went down between the two of them. Ryan Garcia is the WBC welterweight champion. He won the title in February 2026 with a one-sided unanimous decision win over Mario Barrios. He holds a professional record of 25-2 with 20 knockouts. He hits hard, he's fast, and for the better part of his career, he has been regarded as one of the most dangerous punchers in his weight class. He's also one of the most followed boxers alive. Garcia commands more than 12 million followers on Instagram and 8.6 million on TikTok, numbers that make him one of the most followed active boxers on the planet. Arman Tsarukyan, meanwhile, occupies a different corner of the combat sports universe. He is one of the top contenders in the UFC lightweight division, thanks to recent wins over Dan Hooker and Charles Oliveira. He's currently one of the most popular fighters in the world, and outside of the octagon, he has been making waves through live streams, wrestling side quests, and collaborations with influencers and other combat sports athletes. Now, these two men, a boxing world champion and a UFC contender, connected on a Kick livestream in early April 2026. The event highlighted the intersection of boxing and MMA personalities as they entertained fans through their interactions. During the live stream, the two men were seen driving in a vehicle before arriving at a residence. Up until that point, things were friendly. They were laughing, having a good time. Garcia and Tsarukyan had hung out before. This was not the first time Garcia and Tsarukyan linked up, as they previously talked about the UFC's pay gap, with both agreeing that in boxing, only the biggest stars really earned massive money. But then Tsarukyan made a proposition that changed the entire dynamic. Under the terms, Garcia would get 3 body shots to drop Tsarukyan's training partner, who, according to social media handle Happy Punch, weighs around 220 pounds. If Garcia failed to drop the man, he would owe Tsarukyan $40,000. That was the bet. Garcia didn't want to do it at first. Garcia was initially reluctant to participate, but agreed to the terms, so he stepped up. A world champion with 20 knockouts on his record, lined up to throw his signature left hook to the body at a man he'd never met before. The first shot landed clean. The 220-pound man absorbed it. He didn't flinch. In footage now going viral on social media, Garcia can be seen unloading a powerful body shot on Tsarukyan's friend, but it fails to have any visible effect on the larger fighter. Garcia switched stance. He wound up for a second shot. Then he stopped. The WBC welterweight champion switched stance and wound up for another shot. He ultimately decided against it, claiming his anxiety wouldn't let him go for full power. He told the room he was done. He said he couldn't bring himself to throw with full intent. He said, "I'd rather him just take my 40K, bro. I can't hurt this man." Just like that, the bet was over. Garcia conceded and surrendered the $40,000 on the spot after landing 2 heavy shots, laughing as he shook the man's hand. Then Garcia proposed a sparring session with the same guy, and the two went at it for a full round, trading body shots back and forth. On the surface, it looked like content gold. 2 champions from different worlds. Some money on the line, a tough guy test, and a friendly outcome. Garcia was seen handing over stacks of cash on camera. The footage went viral almost immediately, but that handoff of cash, that's where the story takes a turn nobody expected. After the cameras captured Garcia handing Tsarukyan what appeared to be $40,000 in cash, the atmosphere in the room seemed settled. A bet was made, a bet was lost, and the money was exchanged. In the world of live stream entertainment, that's usually the end of it. But in this case, it was only the beginning. Tsarukyan told journalist Adam Zubayrayev that Garcia's team asked for the money back to verify the amount, and have not returned it. According to Tsarukyan, what was supposed to be a quick recount turned into something else entirely. The cash never came back to him. Instead, Garcia's team allegedly promised to handle it through a wire transfer. Tsarukyan agreed to that. He left the building that night without the physical bills, trusting that the electronic payment would follow the next day. It didn't. The 28-year-old said Garcia promised to send the money through a bank transfer, but after 5 days, he still had not even asked for his bank details. In a recent video, he said, "They asked me to give back the 40K to count it, then it disappeared. Ryan told me he will do a bank transfer, and he gives me his word. It's been 5 days and he hasn't even asked for my bank details yet." That accusation hit the internet like a grenade. Here was an elite UFC fighter publicly claiming that a boxing world champion had essentially taken back money he lost in a bet on camera in front of thousands of viewers, and then ghosted him. The optics were brutal. It didn't matter whether the situation was a misunderstanding or something more deliberate. The narrative was already forming, and it favored Tsarukyan. Now, there's important context to consider here. Things seemingly escalated between the two even during the original stream, as Garcia said he'd pay up the next day, and Tsarukyan doubled down, stating that he would not leave before he got his money. "I'm not going to leave this building. I'm going to leave with my 40K. It was my cash on the line, you know?" Even then, there was a moment of tension before the two came to their agreement. The pair eventually reached a gentleman's agreement, with Garcia vowing to wire Tsarukyan 40K the very next day. "We got it safe. Don't worry, bro. We got it. It's safe, brother. We are good. We'll wire you. We'll get it done tomorrow. Guaranteed." On the other side, Garcia didn't accept the claim quietly. Garcia, conversely, argues that Tsarukyan lied about his buddy's combat experience and claims he's the one getting scammed. Garcia's position was that the entire challenge was rigged from the start, that the 220-pound man who absorbed his body shots wasn't just some random friend, but a trained fighter whose background was deliberately hidden to hustle him out of $40,000. In Garcia's eyes, he was the one who got played. The bet was never fair, and therefore the debt wasn't legitimate. During the stream, Garcia lost a $40,000 wager after giving up on a challenge involving Tsarukyan's friend, boxer Rafael Simonian. That detail, that the friend was actually a boxer named Rafael Simonian, became a central part of Garcia's argument. He framed it as a setup. "You told me it was just your boy. You didn't say he was a trained fighter who could eat liver shots for breakfast." But Tsarukyan wasn't having it. He saw it as simple. A bet is a bet. You lost. Pay up. With the $40,000 dispute festering in public view, the situation needed only one more ingredient to reach a boiling point, and it arrived in the form of UFC middleweight champion Khamzat Chimaev. Chimaev is one of Tsarukyan's closest friends and training partners, cornering him for his last outing against Dan Hooker at UFC Qatar. The two men share a bond that goes beyond casual friendship. They train together, travel together, and back each other up without hesitation. When Tsarukyan revealed publicly that Garcia hadn't paid the $40,000, Chimaev didn't wait on the sidelines. Tsarukyan said, "Me and Khamzat will talk to Ryan Garcia. He's not paying his $40,000 bet." He continued, "He asked to give it back to count it because they weren't sure, and they never gave it back. They said they'll wire it." The implication was unmistakable. This was no longer a polite request. Two of the most dangerous fighters on the UFC roster, one of them the reigning middleweight champion of the world, were publicly stating they intended to talk to a boxing champion about an unpaid gambling debt. The internet recognized the weight of that statement instantly. Talk doesn't carry the same meaning when it comes from men who fight for a living? It's worth noting that Chimaev and Tsarukyan have a fascinating dynamic. Khamzat Chimaev has not been impressed by Arman Tsarukyan's recent string of wrestling side quests. UFC middleweight champion Chimaev is one of Tsarukyan's closest friends and training partners. And as he has been training for his first title defense next month in California, he has reunited with his pal. Earlier in April, Chimaev had actually mocked Tsarukyan publicly for his various grappling exhibitions. He called out Tsarukyan for facing influencers and smaller opponents in wrestling, saying, "You don't like real wrestlers, you only like influencers." But the moment the Garcia money situation became public, Chimaev instantly switched from playful ribbing to standing shoulder to shoulder with Tsarukyan. That's a loyalty you don't often see in combat sports, where rivalries between training partners are common and alliances fracture over far less than unpaid bets. Tsarukyan has shown a willingness to place significant bets recently. He previously wagered $10,000 with Giorgio Poulos ahead of a wrestling rematch under the Real American Freestyle banner. He has also attempted to convince Aiden Ross to place a $1 million bet on a fight between Khamzat Chimaev and Sean Strickland. That pattern underlines his comfort with high-value stakes and his positive winning percentage in those cases. Tsarukyan is not a man who makes idle wagers. Betting and winning has become part of his brand. Just this year alone, the top lightweight contender has defeated Giorgio Poulos twice and dominated Lance Palmer in RAF wrestling, as well as choking the undefeated Mohamed Mokaev unconscious on Hype FC in submission grappling. He's been active, he's been dominant in these side ventures, and he has consistently backed himself with real money on the line. So when he says he won a bet and didn't get paid, his track record gives the claim credibility. Meanwhile, it's no secret that Arman Tsarukyan comes from a very wealthy family. The UFC star is not shy with his money and can often be spotted shopping for luxury watches and cars. During their earlier hangout, Garcia got a sneak peek at Tsarukyan's bank account. He couldn't believe his eyes. Considering how much money Garcia has made in his career, that's pretty surprising. This isn't someone chasing $40,000 because he needs it. This is about principle. This is about respect. And the involvement of Chimaev only amplified the sense of urgency. With two UFC killers now aligned against him on the issue, Garcia was forced to respond, and his response took the confrontation in an entirely new direction. Rather than simply wiring the money and ending the saga, Ryan Garcia did what Ryan Garcia does best. He escalated. Instead of settling the issue financially, Ryan Garcia suggested turning it into a fight. He proposed a boxing match, offering $100,000 if Tsarukyan, or someone from his team, could last 8 rounds in the ring with him. The challenge was posted publicly, directed at Tsarukyan by name. Garcia's message was clear: if Arman survives 8 rounds with me, I'll give him $100,000. I don't care what MMA fans say about real fighting. There's a reason MMA fighters can't box. It's hard to use only your hands. It was a calculated move, shifting the conversation from an unpaid debt to a test of combat skills, from "you owe me $40,000" to "come get $100,000 if you're tough enough." At the same time, he made it clear he had no intention of paying the original amount, framing the situation as something that should be resolved competitively instead. That's the key detail. Garcia wasn't offering $100,000 as a peace offering. He was replacing the $40,000 obligation with a new challenge, one that he believed Tsarukyan could never complete. In Garcia's mind, the boxing ring is his territory, and no MMA fighter, no matter how elite, would survive 8 rounds with a welterweight champion who has 20 knockouts on his resume. The boxing versus MMA debate has raged for decades, since the early UFC events, when Royce Gracie proved that a smaller grappler could defeat much larger opponents. The question of which discipline produces the superior fighter has never been settled. But one thing has been settled repeatedly: when MMA fighters enter the boxing ring under boxing rules, they are usually at a severe disadvantage. Conor McGregor, arguably the greatest star the UFC has ever produced, was stopped by Floyd Mayweather in the 10th round of their 2017 bout, and McGregor is widely considered the best boxer the UFC has ever seen. Garcia knows this history. He knows that boxing is a specialist's game, and that an MMA fighter, no matter how dangerous with kicks, elbows, takedowns, and submissions, would be stripped of every weapon except the one that Garcia has spent his entire life mastering: his hands. But Tsarukyan is not the kind of man who backs down from a challenge, and he certainly wasn't going to let Garcia dictate the terms. Tsarukyan's response was swift and devastating in its simplicity: $100K for 8 rounds, lol. Survive 1 round of MMA sparring with me, and I'll give you $1 million. 1 round, $1 million. The counteroffer was a masterclass in gamesmanship, by laughing off Garcia's $100,000 boxing challenge and raising the stakes tenfold. While simultaneously flipping the arena from a boxing ring to an MMA mat, Tsarukyan exposed the inherent one-sidedness of Garcia's proposal. You want me to play your game for pocket change? Fine. Come play my game for life-changing money. The offer extended beyond Tsarukyan's rivalry with Garcia. He tagged Garcia directly and opened the challenge to anyone willing to try. The confidence dripping from that post was palpable. Tsarukyan, a man who had just choked out an undefeated flyweight in a grappling match and wrestled through multiple opponents this year, was essentially saying, I will maul anyone who steps in with me. 1 round, name your price. Ryan Garcia has already made it clear that he isn't interested in competing in MMA, dismissing the idea of adapting to grappling or that style of fighting. And why would he? The dangers of a trained MMA fighter taking down a pure boxer, securing a dominant position, and unleashing ground and pound or locking in a submission are not theoretical. They are documented, repeated realities in every crossover attempt where the MMA fighter gets to use the full range of their tools. So the stalemate crystallized. Garcia would never accept MMA rules, Tsarukyan would never accept boxing rules, and neither man was willing to simply resolve the original $40,000 dispute with a bank transfer. The entire saga between Ryan Garcia and Arman Tsarukyan sits at an intersection that the modern combat sports world has been gravitating toward for years, the place where athletic competition, social media entertainment, and personal branding collide in ways that are often impossible to untangle. What began as a casual moment on a live stream has turned into an ongoing back and forth between Arman Tsarukyan and Ryan Garcia. A simple challenge involving $40,000 has now escalated into public accusations and even talk of a potential fight, though that still feels far from reality. Garcia's career trajectory adds a layer of complexity to this. This is a man who has scaled the highest peaks and weathered the most brutal storms in boxing. Garcia dropped Devin Haney 3 times in a majority decision win in April 2024, a result that was later changed to a no contest. His erratic behavior before the fight initially seemed to be a ploy to get Haney to lower his guard, but then Garcia blew his opportunity to win the title before the fight began, when he came in 3.2 pounds overweight, forfeiting his championship eligibility. The fight went on and Garcia knocked down the undefeated Haney 3 times. In a stunning majority decision win, Garcia subsequently shattered all his positive momentum 2 weeks later, when he was informed he had tested positive for the banned substance ostarine. He was eventually fined $1.1 million, suspended for a year, and the result of the fight was changed to a no contest. Garcia was expelled from the WBC in July 2024, after repeatedly using racial slurs against black people and disparaging Muslims on a social media live stream. He went to rehab, he returned, he lost to Rolando Romero, and then he came back once more to defeat Mario Barrios for the WBC welterweight title. The man has an almost supernatural ability to create controversy, absorb punishment, both in and out of the ring, and emerge on the other side with another chapter to add to his story. Garcia is a world-class content creator with a knack for participating in viral clips. The Tsarukyan situation fits perfectly within that playbook. Whether the $40,000 is genuinely in dispute, or whether both sides recognize the value of prolonging the confrontation for clicks, followers, and future opportunities, is something only they know. Garcia and Tsarukyan's friendship is the broader story here. The $40,000 bet is just one episode in a larger, ongoing relationship between a boxing world champion and one of the UFC's top lightweight contenders. That crossover appeal, combat sports' 2 biggest disciplines, merging through personalities, is exactly why their content works. On Tsarukyan's end, the calculus is equally transparent. Despite his status in the division, a title shot has eluded him, as he seems to have fallen out of favor with UFC brass. While he waits for the opportunity, or perhaps another contender fight, Tsarukyan has been traveling the world, mingling with streamers, influencers, and other fighters. Dana White himself weighed in on Tsarukyan's activity. In a recent live stream with Aiden Ross, the UFC boss said, "I like what Arman's been doing. He's kept himself active. Hanging out with Nina doesn't hurt either. Arman just needs to not be a maniac when he shows up to the event." That last line from Dana White is loaded with history. Tsarukyan has previously punched a fan and got suspended for months. He also headbutted Dan Hooker during a face-off, which could have led to their fight being canceled just days before the event. All these things White didn't like, as they risk the event. Tsarukyan walks a tightrope between being the UFC's most compelling content machine and being its biggest headache. The Garcia feud gives him visibility without the risk of a UFC suspension. As far as fights are concerned, Garcia is expected to face Conor Benn in August. On the flip side, Arman is expected to return this summer against a top contender. Both men have real obligations in their respective sports. The idea of an actual crossover fight between them remains in the realm of fantasy. For now, this remains more of a social media rivalry than anything concrete. The idea of a boxing versus MMA clash always draws interest, but in this case, both fighters seem firmly rooted in their own worlds, making an actual matchup unlikely despite all the noise around it. But the noise itself is the product. The $40,000 that may or may not have been paid, the $100,000 boxing challenge, the $1,000 million MMA counteroffer, Khamzat Chimaev lurking in the background with a vague promise to talk to Garcia. Every headline, every tweet, every clip, It all feeds the machine that both men have built their brands around. Ryan Garcia stays in the headlines between fights. Arman Tsarukyan keeps building an audience while waiting for a title shot that the UFC seems reluctant to give him. Whether this ends with a handshake, a bank transfer, or an actual fight remains to be seen. But if history has taught us anything about Ryan Garcia, it's that the story is never over when you think it is. And if Tsarukyan's recent trajectory tells us anything, it's that he's not the type to let things go quietly. The combat sports world will be watching both of them closely, and that, more than any $40,000 bet, might be exactly the point.